Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Ben, this is Books with Genghis Khan, and I have for you my November wrap-up. We're a couple weeks late because I've finally gotten over a bad case of the flu, which kept me out for a few weeks, but I'm back, and I actually had a great reading month. To start, I returned to one of my favorite ongoing series, which is the Sharp series by Bernard Cornwell. I got around to Sharp's Escape. It's been a few months since I had read the previous book, his first ever published book, Sharp's Gold. And that one I thought was clearly the weakest, and I felt like it was time to give Sharp a break. And I came back to this, and this was a lot of fun. I gave this one 4 stars. This one is just a solid military adventure book. It had everything that makes Sharp great, from compelling battle scenes, to really loathsome villains, to incompetent new British officers that Sharp has to interact with. Just overall, fun story, really solid Sharp book here to get me back in to the swing of things. And then I went for a new release, which was Dead Man's Hand by James J. Butcher. I have a video review for this book, and I really liked it. Also gave this one 4 stars, which for a debut book, and especially the first book I read from an author and the first book in a series, is a very solid rating for me. I really like this one. This one is a very fast-paced urban fantasy, takes place in Boston, and I think Jim Butcher's son, I think he's got a career ahead of him as a successful author. I think this book is much higher quality than Stormfront and Full Moon, the first books, the Dresden Files, and it's a very different main character and vibe. It's a third person, it's not first person like the Dresden Files. This character also, he has these burn scars on his arm from being in a fire when he was younger, and that makes him magically very weak for someone that has magical powers in this world, and so he's very underpowered, and he has to rely on just like a few spells and a very clever way to do a lot of problem solving. And so I really liked that aspect of this, and kind of like an odd couple pairing for a lot of this book that was fun. And I cared a lot about what was going on in the characters, so I'm really excited for the continuation of this series. What a great, fun little urban fantasy palette cleanser that if you're looking for something different than the usual epic fantasy. And solid debut. After that one, I went on a Sharp reading spree. So I went for number 11, which is Sharp's Fury. And this one actually was the last Sharp book Cornwell wrote in the 2000s before he started publishing all the Last Kingdom books. And this one with Sharp's Gold together are my 2 least favorite Sharps. They're easily skippable. A lot of these books are kind of like standalones, but especially this one and Sharp's Gold. Cornwell writes in the afterword to this one that he was at a wedding. He never planned to write this book about the Spanish city of Cadiz and the battle that took place near there. It's not a very important battle in the Napoleonic Wars and the Peninsular Campaign, and someone at this wedding was just a real Cadiz enthusiast and was like pestering him to write about Cadiz, and for some reason he agreed. And a lot of this is just a completely fictional plot that didn't really pull me in. The battle was fine at the very end, but it would take up very little page time. So this one, very skippable Sharp book. But luckily, things returned to form right after with Sharp's Battle. This covers a very important battle in the Peninsular Campaign, the Battle of Fuentes de Oñoro. And there was a lot else that was really fun about this, with a really compelling villain. And this one I gave 4 stars, another really solid Sharp book. Not much to complain about here. This one and Escape, really great. Now, nothing could have prepared me, though, for Sharp's Company. This one is an easy 5 stars, but it might be one of my favorite books of the year, maybe one of my favorite books of all time. I absolutely went crazy for this book. This is one of those reads that I was just completely gripped to the page or to listening to Rupert Farley's god-tier audio narration. It was just electric, this read. I mean, it's not that long, and so much happens in here. Alan at the Library of Alexandria talks about Cornwell is great at doing sieges Well, this book, you get 2 sieges, one to start the book, one to end it. There are both very important battles in this campaign. The siege of Ciudad de Rodrigo, I think, and then the siege of Badajoz, which is the big set-piece battle at the end of this book. But what happens in the middle, too, for people who are into the sharp drama from past books, was just stunning stuff that made me so emotional and tense and wanting to just throw the book across the room sometimes, but it just utterly gripped to what was happening. And the ending was really, really perfect. Just a stunning book. This was Cornwell's 3rd ever published book, right after Sharpe's Gold and Sharpe's Eagle. And because those were kind of lower quality, I wasn't expecting too much from this. But I think this is where Cornwell really found his footing. And just absolutely awesome book. 5 stars, just 10 out of 10. One of the most electrifying reading experiences of my life. So Sharpe's Company. This one, it's a treat right in the middle of the Sharpe series. And so, yeah, you definitely want to keep going until you get here. Then I continued on with Sharpe's Sword, which ended up being another 5-star read for me. So this one, luckily, was a very different kind of Sharpe book, coming off the tense roller coaster ride of Sharpe's Company with those intense battles. This one is more like a spy thriller kind of book. And then it also had a really influential battle, which is the Battle of Salamanca. And it takes place around the city of Salamanca. A lot of this book, which was a very interesting place to read about. And I loved the change of pace from Sharpe's Company and was almost just as gripped to this one as with Sharpe's Company. So yeah, another 2 great Sharpe books right in a row in the middle of the series. And I guess I'm kind of getting towards the end because, yeah, that one was number 14, and I think there's about 22 out now, with maybe the 23rd on the way next year. So now I guess I'm getting towards the end, which is sad. After that, I actually did a little Sharpe short story. It was kind of like a novelette of 60 pages. And this one takes place right after the Battle of Salamanca. And it's a fun little Sharpe book, but definitely only for really necessary for Sharpe completionists like me who are obsessed. Nothing mind-blowing, but solid Sharpe story there. That takes me to The Lost Metal, which I gave 5 stars to. I am a huge Cosmere fan. I love most of the Cosmere books, but I actually wasn't really in love with most of the Era 2 stuff that I had done for a reread leading up to this. I think it was just some of the characters I didn't fully love, and I think Wayne I wasn't the biggest fan of, and his sense of humor, and I don't know, just the feel of the books I think was less fun on reread, and when I was already familiar with the plot twists, and a lot of it's very action heavy, and so that maybe doesn't work as well on the second time or third time around for some of these. But for the first time around, oh, I love this one. We had lots of fun action. We have cool Cosmere connections from characters I've either have seen before or new characters from new places that we haven't. All of it was a lot of fun for me. And then the ending, Sanderson is just the king of endings for me. And bringing this series to a close, I think he nailed it. I got very emotional at the end. Just love how this came to a close. And it got me very ready for more Cosmere coming soon next year. So yeah, this one did not disappoint in the least. And I have a separate review for this one as well. Right after reading that one, I was kind of just in the mood for more of that Cosmere heavy stuff, so I went back and did a reread of Mistborn Secret History. And I know this one has a mixed reception, but since Mistborn Era 1 is one of my just favorite stories of all time, I love having this kind of like behind the scenes look of what's going on during that from a different perspective. And I absolutely adore this story, and it was a lot of fun. I hadn't read it in a while, so it was a lot of fun coming back to it. And Sanderson has said he has plans for tentative other secret histories that he could do to fill in some of the gaps between this one and The Lost Metal. And I would love that because I can't get enough of this kind of behind the scenes stuff and who the main character is of this. So yeah, more secret history, please. And then I was very busy with a lot of things in my life, and I didn't want a read that was gonna really, absorb a lot of my attention and call to me when I didn't have like lots of extra time. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to try out reading A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin, because I had seen all of the show. I've actually seen the first season a couple times, and so I was thinking I'm familiar with the plot beats and the characters, so it won't require a lot of mental energy to grasp the world building, and I won't get that gripped. But I was wrong. This one got 5 stars from me. It was calling to me when I wasn't reading, even knowing generally what was going to happen, and the show in the first season stuck really closely to everything, but I was completely drawn into these characters again, and what most impressed me, well, a lot of things impressed me. Martin was fantastic with lively, clever dialogue here, and I think they ripped a lot of that dialogue right out of the book and onto the screen, and good thing they did, because it's so good. But I was so impressed that even from the main characters and the POV characters to secondary characters to even really minor side characters, Martin brought them alive and made them so distinct and full of personality, and that just made reading such a sprawling kind of multi-POV epic that takes place in a bunch of locations an absolute joy. I can't wait to continue on and go through especially the next couple books that people really seem to love. Don't know when I'm going to get to them, but I am really happy that I finally dived into the actual books here and not just left my memories for this whole world being what the show left me off on. And it was House of the Dragon, too, that got me really re-enthused about Westeros and wanting to do this. And so, yeah, this one, here I have a first edition hardcover I found in a used bookstore. Yeah, not the most beautiful cover in the world, but it's about what's between the covers, and what's between the covers here was awesome. And I was so happy that I ended up really loving it. So, yeah, that brings me to the end of my reading month. Oh, I also took out a free library book that was Tom Felton's nonfiction memoir about his life, mostly growing up and being in the Potter films, and then a little bit about his struggles in trying to make it in Hollywood after those are over. And that was okay. I think I gave it 3 stars. It was really nice to read his impressions of different actors, and there's kind of like mini chapters devoted to a lot of the different Harry Potter actors, both the ones closer to his age and some of the really famous older British actors that he worked with, and some of the minor ones too. So it was fun getting a behind-the-scenes look on the Potter set, but I don't read too much nonfiction, and this one overall I was okay, but definitely worth a read if you can borrow it from the library, and it's just a few hours, really short too. So that was my reading month. The book of the month, I think, is a really tough one, because Game of Thrones was really solid, but I must give it to Sharp's Company, one of the most gripping, electrifying reads of my life. So yeah, Cornwell just hit it out of the park with that one for me. So there's my book of the month. What I'm reading, I've been reading the Expanse series. I'm almost done with book 3. I've been really liking the beginning of this series, and it's another one that I watched the TV show, so I with being so busy and sick, I wanted things that would be easy to kind of follow and not be new world building, and been really loving that. And then I think next up is going to be Ashes of Man, the new release that I just got today. And this is Christopher Rocchio, the new release in the Sun Eater series. I also recently just got my copies of Queen Amid Ashes and Lesser Devil and other stories from Anderida Books, and I'm so happy I have all these new short stories to dig into in Sun Eater, and I can't wait, probably tomorrow, to start, and maybe tonight, with Ashes of Man. So that's what's next on my plate. Hope you enjoyed the wrap-up. Let me know if you've read any of these books or what you think or what you'd be excited about trying, and I'll see you next time.